Hello, everyone, and welcome to What is Your Mod? Today I have Lothos with me. He has made a mod for Strategic Command. So, Lothos, what is your mod?
Um, the mod is basically strategic command, taking it to a higher level, kind of like a hybrid between Gary Bisbee's War in Europe type of stuff and World in Flames, the actual board game, is a hybrid mixed together. A lot more strategy involved. Basically 60 turns now per year, 30 allies and 30 axis. There's a lot more to it, but we'll cover that, I guess, as we play.
Excellent. What I'm going to do is you've already linked the mod in the chat. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the mod installed. Let's get that installed, and then we can talk about the mod after we've installed it and we've got it running. Oh, we've already got a message. Hey, Edmund and guest. Hope you guys are well. A little bit off topic. Why do you think PS2 Panzer Corps 2 has way less mods available than Panzer Corps 1? Well, we're here to talk about Strategic Command today, so we'll talk about Panzer Corps 2 another time. This is a Strategic Command War in Europe mod. The first episode of What's Your Mod was about Panzer Corps. We will be revisiting Panzer Corps at some point, so we'll definitely look at that. But let's start with the install procedure for this. So this is for Strategic Command War in Europe. Just grabbing the link. Okay, so here's the thread for the mod. So it's called the Total Realism Project for Strategic Command War in Europe. And there's also a world-focused version. This is the link for the world version, right? The download TRP
Yes.
world. So
Yeah.
the link for the version for War in Europe is down here.
The world version is everything you're going to see today plus the Pacific.
Okay, so this is the correct link. Download TRP world.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah, but if you want the Europe versions, which is halfway down, so you want to go. I'm sorry. Yeah, because you're doing Europe, I believe. You're not doing world.
Right. So yeah. So the Europe version is this one down here. Download TRP 1.1.3.
Yep.
Okay, so here it is. So there's a folder and a CGN file. I'll just click download for these.
No, you got to click download on the top left. It's Dropbox. It's a zip file. Dropbox, for some reason, shows you the contents of the zip file. So just download it and then put it in your wherever you do your downloads.
Okay, so we've downloaded it. Here it is. Here it is. We have downloaded it. Okay, TRP Total Realism Project 1.1.3. So I have a folder and a CGN file.
Yeah, there's the instructions step by step on what to do with it right underneath the link that you clicked on.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm just going to, because I've actually memorized where it goes. This file is dropped into a specific place. And here's the place I prepared earlier. So it's in My Documents. This is on a Windows computer, of course. My Documents, My Games, Strategic Command, World War II, War in Europe, Campaigns. I'll put the instructions for this in the description of the future YouTube video. And obviously it's in the thread that's been linked with the Twitch chat. So I just dropped this folder and this file in this Campaigns folder, so far as I know.
Yes. That's all you got to do.
And that's all you got to do. That's it. Installation super easy. No problems. All right, so let's fire up the game. It is not always this simple to install a mod, but today it is. Okay, so what do I do next? Single player?
Yes. And the mod should be right on the list. Go to page 2.
Yeah, Total Realism Project 1.1.3. Okay, I'm going to play as the allies. And you have a you have a recommendation for the difficulty, right? If you want to talk about.
Yes, the recommendation for the difficulties in what exactly they do is actually in the same thread. But my recommended for experienced players is to make the difficulty to expert, and then set the spotting to 1 and the experience to 1.
Okay, and what about normal human beings that do not channel the force? Let's say someone who maybe has just finished Strategic Command, the base game, and is just looking for something more in depth to play, but something maybe at the same difficulty level as the base game or roundabout.
What I recommend for those players is to first leave everything base, just gray all the way across, and then as they want to progress in difficulty before they mess with the spotting experience in MPP, on the same thread, I actually post what is the difference between veteran and expert. In the veteran, the AI major powers will get 50 MPPS per turn once at war. The Russians will get 25 MPPA per turn when at peace, and then get the 50 when they're at war. And then when you get to the expert level, the AI will get free research in addition to what is given to them at veteran level. So, and then once they get through that, and if they're still finding the game a little bit too easy, then I recommend messing with the rest of the computer bonuses settings, as I said in my recommendations.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna stick it on veteran because as people know, I'm not a novice, but I am completely new to this mod. Let's go from here. This is similar to what you recommended for experts, but a little bit easier. Should we play with anything here, with the weather or anything like that?
It's your call. I do recommend Fog of War to always be played with, turned on. You definitely want the weather because the weather plays a big role in the game, especially in Russia, because the weather patterns have been completely redone and reworked.
Cool. So you can just fiddle with the options exactly like you would with a normal Strategic Command campaign. There's nothing sort of that works in a weird way or a different way, I should say, or that doesn't, it doesn't have any effect. Like, for example, toggling the weather off doesn't mean that the weather is going to still be on. Some mods really, like, they change the way these kind of options interact with the actual game itself, but everything here is exactly as you would expect with the base game.
Correct.
Perfect. Oh, look, you've even got your own splash screen.
I do recommend counters, by the way. I saw you did the 3D units. I apologize. I have not really modified the 3 units. There was a fan of the mod who gave me 3D units updated, but I cannot attest to them being matched. I can attest that the counters do match what they're supposed to be.
Oh, right. I think you can change that on the fly. I like the units though. I'm not a fan of NATO counters. I'm sorry, all NATO counter lovers. Okay, we got pillboxes here. That's interesting. So I can't do my strategy of running the French away from the front line.
Nope. And be careful, those pillboxes do hit hard.
Okay, I think the AI is thinking. Deep thoughts. So these trucks, I'm going to presume that they're mechanized.
They're motorized units. The army-sized units have been removed completely from the game. So you do have what I would suggest once it's your turn to kind of look through units you can build. But because the tech has changed slightly. But you have now motorized infantry, and then you have also regular infantry. So motorized infantry get 4 action points, while leg infantry get 3 action points. Also, action points no longer cost you, whenever you attack, it would cost you an action point, especially for armor. That's no longer the case.
Okay. We get to watch poor Poland get wrecked. This is one thing that has definitely not changed. So you're saying that the amount of turns that there are per year is greatly increased. So
Yeah.
what were your thoughts there? You're just trying to make the game longer, or like what's your thoughts behind making the game the phases of the year much longer than they are in the base game?
Well, there was a couple of reasons. I loved playing the base game. Whenever I wanted to play the war really quick, you could finish a whole game in one day. But I wanted to find a way to use the same engine to make things longer. It also like playing the Allies, for example, the best game when you're the Russians and you want to do your counteroffensive in the winter. You get 2 turns and the winter was already over. There wasn't really the fulfillment of saying, "Hey, I counterattacked the Germans." So what we did now, or what I did now with this game, is now flatlined the amount of production. Production's based on a monthly basis, and what you'll find is the turns during the summer are 10-day turns. During the spring and in the fall are 12, and in the winter they're 15 days per turn. You'll find, especially in multiplayer games, in AI games as well, when you get to basically 1942 and beyond, especially, you'll find that you don't have enough build to help supplement the amount of activity that's going on in the game, which is how it's supposed to be. And then in the winter time, you'll find that's when you kind of rebuilding your forces, rebuilding your armies, because the game is slowed down. People aren't you can't really attack as much as you were used to, other than through like naval and perhaps some air. Land is kind of sluggish. um, uh, you'll The Russians, for example, will use them as the simplest way. They will have the opportunity to get full fulfillment of a counteroffensive, but at the same time rebuilding that army. And it's not basically instant gratification. You have to work for it through the whole winter as you're pulling in your build.
Cool. So did you change any of these early game events here?
Quite a bit. I used Fall West as a baseline with permissions from the guys who made that great mod. I used it as a baseline, and I made a lot of enhancements to these. Some of them are the same, but most of them have had some changes in one shape or form. One thing to point out is the mod is built around AI. I've done everything I could to improve the AI as much as humanly possible. There is no free units for the AI at all. So when you're advancing in North Africa, if you see new units showing up that you wouldn't expect for like the AfriCorps event or something like that, that's because the AI transported them there. So you'll see a lot of different changes that were made, and the AI acting a lot differently than what you were used to in the previous and the strategic command iteration.
Cool. I am not going to advance into Poland because I am a heretic. Given the possibility that the war with Germany may expand into the Mediterranean, we should consider upgrading our garrison on Malta. Yes. Okay, finally we got control. There is a great deal going on. I'm using WASD to move here, and I forgot that it's arrow keys for strategic command. It's one of those things, man. You just get insanely used to using the arrow keys for everything. Okay, so the UK seems to have most of its fleet at home. Quite a few carriers. Nothing in the Med right this second. Well, apart from a few things. So my usual move is to move the Navy into the Med to crush the Italian fleet, since the Kriegsmarine usually hides in the Baltic, where you can't get to it. Okay, so you have a pillbox wall. So this is a maybe a kind of anti-exploit kind of a thing.
Yeah, the pillboxes is so that you're locking in the line, and you can't. The Maginot line is what it's supposed to be, which is the units were not supposed to be able to move. So there are some limited pillboxes throughout the game.
You've nerfed my cheese. And these pillboxes cannot attack directly. They only defend, right?
No, they can attack. They can attack next. It's just that you're not at war. France is not at war yet with Germany. You will be at war at the end of the turn.
Oh, of course. When they're done dumpstering Poland, then we'll be at war. Of course. Okay. Let's have a think. I have the Mountain Corps. This is like a special kind of unit. I see it's got a little glacier on its icon.
Yes, mountain units get big bonuses in defending in mountains.
Does that include hills or just mountains?
Yes, all anything, hills, mountains, high mountains. I modified all of those modifiers. The other thing that is actually different with one of the more recent patches that I put out is now the defensive abilities stack. So, for example, in the Strategic Command base game, if you had a city within a mountain, you would only get defensive bonuses for the city. Now they stack. You will get defensive bonuses for both the mountain and the city, both combined.
Nice. Sorry. Okay, right. So let's see. Let's plan the defense.
One thing to mention since you like playing the Allies.
Sorry?
One thing to mention since you like playing the Allies is that the convoys are your lifeblood for the UK. Under you'll get, I think, almost 50% of your build comes from, or war comes from those convoys. So the sub warfare can be detrimental if you don't pay attention to it.
Okay.
Yeah, and some other things to keep in mind is planes, fighters. Fighters will give you the ability to see what's going on. They have a sight range of 5 hexes on land, 7 on the sea. Maritime does, I think, 10 hexes on land and only 3 in the sea. 10 hexes in sea, 3 on land.
Canada. They're sending me everything that they possibly can. So one classic move is to just go ahead and raid the hell out of the Norwegian convoys early on. Is that still a reasonable move? Have you?
Yeah. I mean, the AI won't do much to stop you.
Here I am setting up my rating. You can set Raider this way as well, but it feels like it takes just as long. I don't feel like there's a truly quick way to do this. So perhaps you can explain one thing to me is I just leave Raider on all the time. Is there any real reason to not have Raider on?
I can't think of any, honestly. I think the AI itself, by default, has it turned on always as well. One of the things I discovered, there's no command to tell surface combat ships to tell the AI to raid, but I found that if you make the ship sit on a convoy route, then the AI will automatically raid it. So I'm thinking that's what the AI does. So yeah, there's no reason why not to have raiding always turned on.
The only reason I thought of is raiding does cost supply, and you may not want to. If you're sat on a convoy route, you may want to maintain a high supply for some future offensive or something along those lines. That was the only thing I could think of, but I feel like I have a lot of carriers.
You do. They're light carriers. I think you only get one regular carrier. It's in Egypt. So I do recommend that you pay attention to the med. If you do not, then the Italian Navy will come out.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Obviously, it's not
sail over
an issue
there.
now. Yeah, it's just the Italians are at peace, so you're okay for right now.
Okay. So we have all kinds of new units in here, I see.
Yeah, I organized this so it was easier to figure out, understand what they were. So I put like the div you see for division core in front of the ones that are cores. There is now like tank destroyers, very, very nasty against armor. As Baltasar in his videos that he posted when he did a run on this on an earlier version, he discovered that the tank destroyers are really nasty.
Okay, all right. Well, I won't spend any money for now. Let's.
Yeah, and just since you're playing the Allies, the Russians in the Axis do have additional units that you don't see there. For example, I'll have Germans have SS Corps, Armor Corps, and then the Russians have Guards Armor Corps as well. They do have different stats, and they actually have different colorization for their symbols.
I see that the Allies start with different technology to the base game as well, in that you already have Mark I infantry and tanks as the UK, for example.
Yes, yes. A lot of this has been rebalanced and changed slightly. And there's no tech cap. The maximum research says 3,000, but that's more than you will ever use. So you research as much as you want.
Awesome. Moving everything in Russia is always a huge thing.
Yeah, the Finnish border. I put those messages in there so the players know that they don't have to put units to defend those areas. When Finland gets involved in the war, you will get units to defend all those hexes. I try my best to place things so that it makes it easier for players to understand what's going on. For example, the rating points on the U.S. East Coast now have little tooltips that tell you what exactly the rating will do.
Okay, I see we have some. We have a bunker down here as well. So what about the old Mongolian region? There's a wave of units that you get once the war kicks off. That is
Are you
pulled
talking about
from
the Siberian
eastern,
units?
yeah, they pulled from Russia's eastern border. You still get those as well. That has that been rebalanced, changed?
Some of them have been changed, but yes, you still get those Siberian units. You also find that the Russians have a strategic bomber now as well, because they did actually have a very large strategic bombing force.
Okay. Let's grab infantry warfare. I'm going with my base game plays here. The old infantry warfare, infantry upgrades are the lifeblood of being alive once it all kicks off.
As the Allies, you do have the Ethiopia area, so one of the things that when I play the Allies, I tend to do is I'll take South African units and I'll send them over to help take out Ethiopia.
Does Poland actually have any money? I'm going to presume no.
Poland is not a major power. They are part of their minor under UK control. That was one of the changes that I made.
Ah, so I could have used my money to help Poland resist for like one more turn.
Yes, I don't recommend it, but yes, you could.
Hey, Roby. Quick greeting for Edmund and chat. Alright, so I never know what to do with Poland. I mean, Poland is doomed, as we know.
My personal strategy, I just try to hoard all the troops around Warsaw and just try to, kill as many Germans as I can or hit them as much as I can.
Okay, let's yeah, I mean they're doomed. Sorry, Poland. My strategy usually is to defend behind this river, behind the Dnieper. At least in the early phase, while my engineers build a wall behind the the Don River.
That is a potential strategy. One of the things you should keep in mind is because there's more turns. I've tried doing solid lines against the AI when playing with the difficulty settings that I mentioned in that early invasion, and it didn't really work very well. I found and it's the same thing I taught the AI to do, is to try to slow you down, try to get to the winter and just slow you down.
Okay. Despite Greece's economic ties and the ideological affinity with Germany, it's critical we pressure the Greek government to sever, says Severe, economic ties with our enemy, as Greek political choices tended ultimately, despite occasional waverings towards Britain, coupled with growing provocation in the Italian-German axis. The current situation in Europe should eliminate the dilemma in choosing the path Greece must follow. To this effect, we believe we can pressure Greece to sign a trade agreement restricting its exports to Germany. While this trade agreement will not favour Britain, we can consider denying Greek exports to Germany a victory. If you select yes, Greece will move towards the Allies. Do it. All right. Portugal protests the German invasion of Poland. Oh, I've received a Polish destroyer. Am I going to get to keep that?
Yes. Yeah. That is another big difference in the mod. When you're invading, if you're playing the Axis, you want to hit the naval assets of whatever countries you're attacking, and you know that they're going to surrender because they will survive after they surrender. They will continue fighting.
That submarine is brave. Hunting submarines is a complete fiasco. Like, I always find it really difficult.
Yeah, the ASW war is. You have your CVLs. You'll find that they are your bread and butter for anti-submarine warfare. I like to send around like 3 destroyers with a CVL, just running them around up and down the chains because they have such high spotting range. It's what the AI does too. The AI is extremely effective in this ASW campaign. Probably too effective.
In my expert campaign, I really struggled to sink submarines. I had to send like 20 ships after them. Alright, she's on her knees. Poor Poland. So far, this is sort of unfolding very similarly to what I would expect.
Yeah, the early stages will follow the normal flow. As you start progressing through, you'll start seeing that the changes, the differences, especially like in North Africa campaign and in Russia. You'll also see the differences in the right after the invasion of France and France surrenders. Will see the German Air Force pound the UK and hit it pretty hard. So there will be a battle for Britain. I do recommend keeping some fighters out there. I also recommend building every anti-air unit you can. Anti-air is extremely helpful in this game. It can fire up to 2 hexes away, and it also has the same abilities as an anti-tank. The only difference is that they cannot attack units next to them because they are anti-aircraft guns. But if they get attacked, they can defend themselves just like an anti-tank unit can. Oh, and HQs are a lot cheaper. If you're playing the Germans or the Russians, one of the things is a strategy. At some point, you want to build every HQ you can.
Oh, nasty. I hate submarines. They're nice when they're mine.
Yeah, I don't think the ships, the ASW they have is really low at the beginning.
That cruiser entered the bad times. Now there's a sub up here somewhere, but the question is, can I find it? Where did he go? He was here. He got like 14 movement. I suppose he could be as far as here, but he actually moved in and then moved out, so he shouldn't have gotten too far.
I believe subs get 20 movement.
So does the carrier itself have good vision range, or is this limited to its craft?
It's limited range is set to 5. So when you move the hex, I noticed that the game engine works as the very first hex you stop in. So if you were to tell the carrier to move like 10 hexes away, whenever it stops, it'll see up to 5 hexes. But the second move and after that, it will not do that. So pick your very first spot wisely, because then after that, it won't do its max range view.
I see. What I don't see is the sub.
If I had to guess, the AA probably shipped them out to the Atlantic.
What a pain. Nope, gone. Disappeared into the ether. I know a lot of people cruise, but the thing about cruising is it drains your supply, which drains your combat effectiveness. And these units will be difficult to fully resupply in the med, because there's... At least in the base game, there's no like major ports in the med.
That's actually, if you look around the map, you'll see a bunch of major ports, the big sides, especially around the UK. But Malta is a primary supply source for the UK, so you can repair your ships to their full amount. And also there is another port, forgot what it's called. It's right on the tip where Saudi Arabia is, I think it's Aden. That is also another major supply point where you can repair your ships to their full 10 max for the UK.
Okay, so that's a change. Making my moves. this is a real question as to how useful a. Well, it's nice to have a strategic bomber, but the Germans come at you with hordes of fighters, so I've always struggled to use aircraft as Russia. Is that something that's changed as well, would you say?
In the earlier, I found when playing the Allies in the beginning, I set all of the aircraft for the Russians to just ground, and I just use them for spotting, so I can try to see what the Germans are moving. I fly them to the front and then fly them out the same turn, because the AI will, if it finds your fighter, it will pound it to make it die, make it disappear. It's usually not until summer of 1942 where I can actually start pulling my fighters out and having engagements with the Germans. And it's not because I can't win the fights; it's because I need the MPP for building infantry. And as the Russians, you don't want to waste your MPP reinforcing aircraft units when you need more ground forces, so you can try to slow the Germans down.
Okay. Any questions in the chat about the mods so far? It's I'm going pretty quickly here to try and get a bit of, show a bit of the flow of the beginning of the game without going too hard on it.
Yeah, I do recommend if people want to visually see more, like as Baltasar had a great, I think it's like 15 videos that are over an hour each on a multiplayer game he played with an early version of the mod. And they are very informative. You'll actually see the Russian front in a massive cohesive front with their leaders and trying to push each other back.
I see you haven't stopped the AI from moving its units through your ships.
Yeah, that I can't stop. That's built into the engine.
He was a little closer than I anticipated. I just couldn't see him.
Yeah, that was an actual recent change they did with submarines for spotting and stuff. They had made the developers for Strategic Command had made some adjustments so that subs could not be as easily spotted.
All right. Goodbye. Goodbye, Poland. Poor Poland. He never stood a chance. Then again, I suppose France doesn't stand a chance either. Is it possible to save France in your mod, would you say?
I have not been able to do it. I've played the Allies multiple times, and I've tried my hardest to try to beat the Germans back, and they eventually outmuscle me.
I'm going after that sub. I hate subs.
Yeah, there is a lot of difference between the units now in regards to the miners as well. That was another thing. So all of your research, everything on the right-hand side, what I refer to kind of like your doctrines, they no longer affect your miners. So armor, like for example, a Romanian armor corps will not get 2 attacks; will only get 1, while the Germans will get their full 2. The only exceptions to that rule are what I would classify as the UK miners that are really majors. There would be Canada, South Africa, India, Australia, and New Zealand. And those other references are referring really to TRP World.
There he is. Get him. I hate subs. There's a comment in the chat. Slytherin Games going to keep supporting Steel, Butlakia, and Broken Arrow. Well, considering the lead developer of that game is French, and the team is a mixture of Ukrainians and Russians who are all working together before the war started. Yes, of course we are. Why would we punish the Ukrainian team for that? Sorry if that's slightly off topic there. That's the last I'm going to say on that matter. It's a difficult topic to avoid while we're playing a war game, but you know, just wanted to answer that misinformation. Okay. I have no idea where the sub went, but I did give him a wounding, so that's something. We'll have to keep an eye and see if it resurfaces later. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people use the fast movement, but I find that the damage it does to your unit's morale and supply, it doesn't really recover that quickly, and you can find yourself with a lot of units operating poorly. I mean, I don't know if I'm making the right moves here, but in the base game, normally I would say that half the British fleet plus the units in the Med is sufficient to sink the underpowered Italian navy. And then the other half, the Northern Fleet, is sufficient to harass the Norwegian supply chain and also go after the odd ship that comes out to play.
If you look at the Adriatic Sea area, you'll see that moving the UK fleet in there will cause it to have severe damage. There's a little IntelliSense or tooltip that'll mention it about it, and which points are needed for the Italians to keep that defense up. There's also
oh yes, I see it.
Yeah, and there's also the ports. If you remember in the base game, when France would fall, you'd get these ports in Spain. Now I put in these barriers around those ports so if you move any ships in there, they will take severe damage. The assumption is from mines and stuff. It's to prevent. There's just certain things you can't fix or change in the game engine, and one of them of parking your British fleet around these ports. There's just no way to fix that exploit. So the only I would say the only thing I could come up with as a solution was to put these things around there. So if you move in there to try to camp it, because the AI does use them extensively, you'll pay a price. You can do it, but you're just going to pay a price.
You'll pay the price.
Yeah, but the Adriatic Sea is quite hard.
I must admit, it's nice that you've moved to diminish certain, perhaps ahistorical exploits.
Yeah, there's another event you're probably not going to see it this evening. That's similar to that, like the if you remember, the U.S. escorted British convoys in the early stages of the war, even though they weren't part of the war. That is a U.S. option that will be available sometime around where France falls. And when that happens, you'll actually see this massive red line show up off of the U.S. East Coast. And if there's any Axis ships past that line, they have a random chance. It's not guaranteed, but it's a random chance that they will suffer damage due to assumed U.S. ASW efforts.
Okay. A little bit messy, but I'm feeling very naked right now. There's not a lot of units here. The poor Russian fleet here. I never feel like it has much hope of doing anything. It's kind of trapped.
The Romanians do get a fleet, so it's that in the Black Sea. It's good to keep a couple of ships, because you may need it.
I'll send France's destroyer out to join the North Sea fleet. So normally you wouldn't invest much effort into the French ships because they are they don't survive the nation. They're stood down. So that's changed or not for France.
I usually focus all of my build power. You have two strategies. Strategy one is you play the long-term game and you spend your MPP on researching, because once France surrenders, they can no longer research. But by researching stuff, you're trying to see if you can finish these things before they surrender, so that Free France can then use the tech. That's strategy one. Strategy two is you're just going to go for maximum potential damaging to the German units, and you just pound everything into your land forces. My recommendation on that one is you build your anti-tank and your anti-air first for the French, and then start repairing all of your stuff and bringing them up. You may even want to build tank destroyer for the French. Those units are your three best chances of slowing the German armor down.
The biggest issue with sending the Polish forces to France is that they'll be considered French, and French morale breaks very easily. Let's send them to the UK and see if we can ship them to France. Heretic Q says, do you have to control all the factions, or the AI does a decent job?
It does a decent job. The only thing is when you're letting the AI control the countries on your side, he doesn't get any of the bonuses that you would typically see from the opposite side of the AI. For example, the Italian AI is heavily designed to pour everything it can into North Africa and try to beat back the UK there, and they will send a lot of troops, as many as they can muster, to try to keep that fight going.
That sub got wrecked.
I have seen the AI win in North Africa. They do put up a good fight, and I've played the allies and the Italian AI coming after me. So to answer your question, the AI will do a decent job. Just keep in mind that any AI countries that are on your side do not get the bonuses that were typically associated for the an AI controlled country that you've specified in the beginning of the scenario, and that is actually by design by the developers in the main exe. The base game is the same way.
That sub went down and around and looped back. It looks like, unless that's a different sub. Italy sells its naval assets to Sweden. That just doesn't seem very wise, does it? Those of us that know what's going to happen know that that was not a wise move. All right, an Allied invasion of Norway would be instrumental in cutting off shipments to Germany, even if there are certain to be diplomatic consequences for such an invasion. Let's not bother. That's not going to work.
One of the strategies I do with these engineers is I do place them. My personal strategies in Murmansk, and I build forts around there. The AI comes heavily at Murmansk. You'll find Finland will launch attacks coming in from all sorts of directions, and Murmansk is very important for the Russians to survive. Um, if you don't keep it, you'll still get your convoys through Archangel, but it will be a lot less.
Okay. Decisions. It's interesting that you would say that, because Murmansk is not a place that I normally defend.
You'll get about over 100 MPP come pumping through there at the height of the war.
If you can hold it.
If you can hold it, yes. It's an extremely important point. The British are going to be sent. Convoys are extremely important now for the Allies. I'm not sure about the base game. I actually never took it to those depths. The base game doesn't have as many convoys that are in here. But yeah, convoys are extremely lifeblood. There are events that let you get MPP through Persia and through Vladivostok, but they are not in the amounts that you would see through Murmansk. So that shipping line coming all the way up there is extremely important for the Russians, especially in the early phases. I think it would be extremely difficult. Not impossible, but I would say it's extremely difficult to survive the main German onslaught if you lose Murmansk really early in the war. Because there will be German units coming in through Finland as well. The AI ships troops in there, and they don't show up magically. If you see Germans attacking you through Finland, it's because he shipped them there.
I'm not allowed to buy any extra engineers early. Sad times.
You'll get two. They're both in your production queue. That was another thing that I did in everything that I could possibly do is I shifted the events that gave you units. I shifted them all to the production queue because I didn't want people to overbuild. So like one of the typical strategies is I can build 7 armor units, but I know I have this event that's going to give me a free armor unit. So if I build my 7, I'll actually have 8. Some instances I can't resolve it, but in most cases I was able to resolve those kind of minor, I call minor exploits.
Okay, slowly wielding my Russian forces into some semblance of a defensive line, or at least a slowdown line.
I don't know if you know, but you've got an HQ and other units in the southern part of Egypt as the British, and then South Africa also has an HQ as well, and units that are waiting to be transported.
Oh, you mean these units down here?
You got further south. Go south. In southern, near the Ethiopia border. There you go. You just passed it. Yep.
Okay. Any reason to maintain these here, or would you move them?
I would move them towards the border so you can attack the Italians down there. Those are Italians in Ethiopia. So that's a garrison unit just protecting the capital, but you got a corps and then you got an infantry HQ there in the coast. And then if you look further all the way down to the south tip of Africa, you'll have a South African HQ with another corps there that are basically waiting for you to transport to wherever you like them to go.
Yeah, I never.
I usually use those to take out Ethiopia.
I never usually found them that useful and just left them where they were. Because in the base game, the minor nations under major nations those units cost more to reinforce than normal units. I think it's like about 25% more. So they can become quite the MPP sponge if you use them.
Yeah, they don't get the discounts that you would get from the industrial techs. But South Africa does get a maritime bomber, and one of the suggestions is if you look at like a Bermuda all the way off the east coast, you can put the South African maritime bomber there to protect your convoys in that area from German subs. So there are strategies that, because of the maritime bombers being so powerful in a sense of visible and being attacked so far away, they have those perks.
Okay, well I'll shift a couple of units up because why not? I don't know if we're going to reach the point where we do this kind of thing, but it's it's good to point out to the guys of like decent early game moves to make. I generally just ignore this region until later on. One thing that may not be obvious to many people is obviously you have a lot of damaged units, but I mean, other than France, I guess repairing them early is usually a mistake, because you can build units early and then repair after and still have everything ready in time, as opposed to repairing early and then trying to build units. Those units won't be ready in time.
That is a possible strategy, but that strategy no longer works for France. And actually for anybody. The tech research has been extremely slowed down. Level 1 layer levels, unless somebody else has already researched it, because there is a bonus between friends. But if you're all researching the same tech, you'll find that you will not reach the level 1s until close to the end of 1940. So France would already be gone by the time you get to that thing. So reinforcing your units and waiting to reinforce your units until the tech is researched will not work in regards to France.
That's not exactly what I meant. I meant you build units, because units take many turns to make. So you build units and then repair, rather than repairing and then building units, because then it takes time for the units to spawn.
Yes.
That's what I'm on about. It's you see what I mean, right? If let's say you have 100 MPP of repair to do and 100 MPP of building to do. If you build first, then repair, then there's an extra turn that the units are building. Instead of, if you repair first and then build, then the units that are building are one turn delayed. So as long as you repair your units before everything kicks off, you're fine.
Yes. I mentioned the other strategy because that's one of the strategies I used to do, which was hold off on repairings until the tech that gives you the discount on repair comes in. Oh, in regards to your UK ships, you're going to find that your upgrade costs for your ships are a lot more expensive. Upgrade costs have been vastly increased.
I appreciate these Kriegsmarine skulls. Oh, would you believe it? I just blundered into that sub. Ah, I didn't mean to do that. Can I undo? Is undo a thing?
I think if you spot the unit, I mean, there are conditions. It's all in the executable. There are certain conditions that will let you undo.
It's alright, it doesn't matter. This is a different sub. This is not the one I was laying into earlier. This is a new sub. What's the range on this? 17. Good. I will hopefully put my disapproval into that submarine shortly.
But anti-tank weapons are extremely important now. Most people are used to the base game. They're only used in the anti-tank units. Pretty much everything other than armor itself uses anti-tank weapons.
I'm not allowed to double stack technology anymore.
Oh yes, no double stack. Yeah, it's to slow the pace of the game down. The researching. It's one of the reasons why I did that. So you have to be very either focused on certain areas or spread to research around.
Spread the love. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of these changes are just based off of me playing and finding exploits and things that I felt that were exploits that I wanted to try to flatten out so that the game would kind of flow more of a historical flow. It sounds a little bit weird and stuff, but if you watch, the only thing that was really bad in the Baltazar videos on YouTube was that the research was broken at that time, so they were getting research too fast. So they created house rules to curtail themselves. But now that the research is fixed, and I have played multiple games as the Allies and the Germans through to see how the new research works, and it does speed up. You think it would get harder because it is set to be harder, but it does speed up once you get through the first levels.
Okay, I'm going to grab anti-tank weapons then. Does anti-tank weapons affect all units?
All infantry styles, yeah. Anti-tank, anti-air as well. The only units that don't get used by it are armor. Armor uses anti-aircraft, artillery, and the armor tech. And you also find that naval weaponry is the ships are still capped at naval weaponry level 2, but everything else keeps going up to 5. I do recommend, especially if you're playing the UK, to focus on that, because if anti-aircraft and naval weaponry go hand in hand, land units are no longer capped at 2 anti-air. They can keep going. It's to counterbalance the amount of damage that can be done to them through the naval weaponry. So the ships can keep going up to level 5 on anti-air to try to fight back the navals.
This mod is called... That's the question in the chat. What's the mod called?
Total Realism Project, TRP.
Total Realism Project.
Yeah.
For Strategic Command. And it is
Yes.
available in both War in Europe flavor and World at War flavor.
Yeah. And it's possible some people are familiar with my work from other mods. I'm the same person who did the Hearts of Iron 1, 2, and 3 AI and Total Realism TRP there. So I moved over to Strategic Command. Just really like the game engine and the simplicity and then the complexity that can be built in simultaneous.
I never help myself to the Irish ports. It doesn't feel like it's worth it. All that does is make the IRA mad.
It does, but I like the national morale bonus. It helps your land forces. National morale is tied directly to your unit's abilities to fight.
Oh! That was an incredible hit. Okay, well, the sub that I damaged earlier is now badly exposed. You still get the 25% attack bonus for attacking from a fixed position.
I've removed that bonus from some units. I don't believe the ships have that bonus anymore. Garrison units, I don't believe, have those bonuses. There's a few other units that I removed that bonuses from. But yes, most of the mainland units still get it.
How dare this sub? How dare it? I'm impressed with how easy it is to install the mod. I mean, it's literally just drag and drop into a folder.
Simplicity is the key.
Okay, the French Communist Party has denounced the war as an imperialist conflict. They have called for us to make peace. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no to this as well. I actually, I have a different approach. Where did that sub go? It was right there, and it used all its movement points. Okay, I just couldn't see it. Ah, how pleasing.
Oh, and people are used to seeing damage evaded. I saw that a few times. That has been changed. The strategic command, I believe, base had the evade damage as just the attacker. So now it's actually both attacker and defender has chances to evade, including the aircraft. So it's no longer limited to just ships. Planes have a chance of evading their damage as well.
Yeah, I think we've had some good success with the fleet there, taking out 3 cruisers and a submarine. Now we shall return for some repairs. These units will have to be returned to base soon because their supply is running low. feel like I could probably get all the technology before the war kicks off, or at least start it going.
Yeah. I know this is going to sound like a strange strategy for the UK. I normally don't reinforce or build anything for about the first 6 months of the game. I pump everything into research, every single MPP that I get. I do the same strategy for the Germans.
Just feel like that's a more efficient use of your MPP.
Yes, yeah. Especially the industrial techs. The 2 industrial techs are always the highest priority. Because one of the things people will find, I've had people comment this on the forums, and even in our Discord channel, they were like, "Oh, I'm playing the Germans, and it's getting end of 1940, and I pretty much I'm building everything." And my response to them is you're still in your honeymoon phase. You got to wait to the later half of the war. So right now you're like, "Oh, I'm swimming in cash. I can build and buy everything, and you're not suffering any casualties." But once you start getting into 1942 and 1943, the casualties will start mounting up, and then you'll find that the 1,000 MP that you're collecting as the Germans in a historical style game is not sufficient to really maintain everything going on.
Okay. Do you repair your navy at all, though? If you hunt like I have done here, I've hunted down quite a few German ships. Would you repair any sort of minor scrape damage so you can get back out there, or would you
German
dock
Navy,
those?
The German Navy is quite limited in the beginning, so you're more, I would say, an aggressive player than I am. I tend to play more defensive. I would not expect to see too many German subs. I think you sunk 2 of them. So
yeah, I get told that a lot. I'm a very aggressive player.
Yes. So they only get 4 in the beginning. So you're going to spot those 2 subs at some point. It just won't be a while. The AI doesn't do too much in submarine warfare until close to the fall of France, and that's when you start seeing things pick up. So I don't think you have much to worry about.
Well, Britannia rules the waves, and I don't like to share my waves with anybody. Just it's not happening. Just the Germans will be like, why can't we have just this one small patch of sea? You'll not let us have anything. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Give them nothing, but take from them everything. That's my impression of an Austrian accent, by the way, not a German one, before anyone starts screaming in the chat.
Yep. You love that movie 300, I see.
Yes. I'm not sure how these two things are related either, but here we are. All right, let's go. I was looking in the chat there and thinking, "Oh, there's a question and it's you."
Yeah, I was just answering the question and then mentioning the world version of the mod. I thought it was really nice of the developers to let me do that, be able to carry this into world.
There will be sorry, just to say, I will, because this will be on YouTube later. I will try and include a link to the Europe version of the mod and the World at War version of the mod, and obviously to the main page as well. Because obviously some people will have the Europe game, some people will have the World game, some people might have both. So I'll try and get all of that information on the official Slytherin YouTube channel, and later on my channel as well. I'll try and get all that information on there for you guys, so people can grab this.
Yeah, and when you see the world version, I know that the US is a little bit strange that you don't see the West Coast. The editor is at its max size. The developers tried; they're extremely helpful. I've got to give them a A++ Infinity. They have been extremely helpful answering questions and have done everything they could to actually support this mod, investigating, see if they could even make their map bigger, because I really wanted to do the full world and keep the same dimensions that the Strategic Command Europe has. Because if people who play the world version know that it's a lot smaller, the world. So, but it is, the dimensions are exactly the same. It's this map you see here plus the Pacific, with just their, it has all the same updates. It works identical. There's no difference between the two other than the Pacific side, and as much that could be done as possible. The AI is just what I need to really work on the most. That just takes a lot of dedication and time. I've got a lot of stuff in it, but to be what I would classify as an effective when it needs a lot more. So right now, all it has is a Japanese offensive AI. Pearl Harbor is down to a T. Japan launches a great Pearl Harbor on that one, with multiple invasions going on at the same time, usually about 10 or so invasions all across the Pacific.
Sorry to cut you off there. We just got a quick question saying, when you downloaded the mod from Dropbox, I noticed a pop-up requesting a sign-in. Do I need to have Dropbox account to access the files? No, you do not. I don't have a Dropbox account myself. You can just click download and grab them. So worry not. Please continue.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. With the Dropbox stuff, just to add in a little thing, the thread that I am extremely active, and I go in spurts. If you look through the history of the thread, you'll see that
I nearly said something there. Please continue.
That I've actually put out updates sometimes 1 to 2 a week. I've paused because I think the game is pretty solid right now with the mod, with version 1.13. I am slowly making a list of things that I'm going to work on for the next release, but it is heavily worked on. So I do recommend not just going straight to the Dropbox, because that Dropbox link will eventually break, and that usually means there's a new version out.
Cool. Such a child sometimes. I do apologize.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta have a little bit of fun in this line of work. That's why we're here, right? That's why we play games.
Exactly.
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
One of the strategies for the Russians, again, since you're playing the Allies, is their research. I save all of their MPP, just do research in the early years. And you focus on the infantry, anti-tank, anti-aircraft. And the order that I prioritize, though, is infantry, anti-tank, armor, and then anti-aircraft. Their armor tech is pretty advanced because historically, the Russians actually were more advanced in their tanks than the Germans, especially in the early years of the war. Because the Germans are just better at using their tanks. The T-34, which most historians will know, was literally the best tank of its time, until the Panther came out. But the Panther didn't come out until, I believe, end of 1941 or early 42. Yeah, you'll see that the Russians' tech on infantry is lacking, but they're actually already pumping out, being ahead of the Germans in the tank warfare.
Cool. I'm having a real struggle to put damage onto this sub. These units need resupply and slight repair.
Yeah, that convoy route, one of the changes that I made, and it was a subtle map change to allow me to do it. You'll notice that Copenhagen is no longer able to cross. Yeah, you're no longer able to cross into Sweden. It's now blocked with a port, and that was done on purpose so that convoy routes can come through there now. So the German convoy route comes in through Oslo, coming down, so it's easier for the Germans to defend it. And the later half of the game, as the if you're a human UK player, be mindful where your ships are. Make sure you have air cover. I've gotten a little froggy sometimes in North Africa, and I sent my fleet up through Malta, and I would end up having 2 maritime German bombers plus the Italian maritime bomber, and then any packet stuff that the Italians have, and they'll blow away half my fleet in one round.
Well, that doesn't sound very good.
No. So you got to be very careful where you're positioning in the early stages. Right now, you're kind of in your honeymoon phase. You got free reign at everything. So it's not until, I would say, 1941 when things start to get really heated up.
Okay. So I've just formed a little pocket resistance here. And just down here to stop them from going from too quickly taking this region, Crimea. Probably bring this into Zaporizhia. I think positioning wise we're probably good to go. I say this like I know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to say that I'm happy. Unleash the Germans! There are tens of thousands of Spanish Republicans living in internment camps in the south of France. The only engineer that you get more. I mean, so the game has been slowed down. Does that mean you get more time to build fortifications with your engineer? In the base game, you really only have time to build a couple.
Yes, you because you have a lot more time. The time in turns, yes, because like for example, in the base game, the winter you can literally get through the winter in 2 turns. But because fortifications are timed, there's by I think months or days. I think it's 30 days, 60 days for a size 2 fort, and every size after that is either 15 days or 30 days more. It's whatever was in the base. But yes, you will get a lot more time to maneuver around and build those fortifications. In fact, as the UK, you will get an engineer as an event in Egypt, if you so choose. And the reason by is you look at the Qattara Depression, that has been adjusted on the map. In the base strategic command, they had 3 hexes that you can attack from, which I felt it didn't really reflect the accuracy of the, I would say, limited space that the Allies and the Axis had to fight in that area. Like in the example, the Battle of El Alamein, you couldn't outflank, which was Rommel's key thing, was outflanking the enemy. There was no option there. So now you only have 2 hexes, and that engineer will be monumental if you end up being in the defensive at the UK. You'll want to build your fortifications down there, which is what the AI does as well. He'll build a bunch of fortifications in case he starts losing in North Africa.
I know what I want to do. I want to sink that sub. I think it's right there, so I don't understand why I don't see it.
It was I'm not sure when was the last time you played Strategic Command, but they did make it a bit harder to spot subs.
Okay, yeah, because I know he was there.
Yeah, the developers did that, and it affects all of the mods. A lot of those changes were based off of players' feedback and stuff.
Great. I already hated subs. Now they're even more annoying.
I actually have to make it a little bit harder for these people not to destroy them. I felt playing a game as the Germans, I just felt it was too easy for the AI especially to wipe out myself. Because he does do a really good effort with taking out my subs. I'm in the middle of a game now that I've been playing as the Axis. The Italian sub fleet has been decimated, and I've lost quite a few German subs. So it seems like I can't be on the lines too long before I'm getting attacked by multiple destroyers and aircraft carriers.
Well, I've been plowing my disapproval into this sub as well, and it is very close to dead.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed, and again, it'll be in I guess my next patch is taking notes, is that the subs defensive values don't increase with tech. Again, props to the developers that they try their best to help out and answer the questions. They informed me that they felt that the diving was really the countermeasure. But as you can see here, the subs don't dive that often. And even then, it's usually easy to spot them even after the dive. And you're already able to damage your subs quite without much impedance from them.
This is this is a welcome, refreshing change from from expert mode, where it literally would take me 10 turns with 20 ships to take out one sub.
Yeah, I don't like playing with level 2 experience. To me, that's like, if you want to play a suicidal game, go ahead.
Well, people who hang around on my channel will know that I love masochistic, hard games. That was definitely an experience for sure.
Yeah, I tried that difficulty, and when I was running around with the Africa Corps, the Armored Corps particularly, and seeing the British 7th Armor come right up and one-shot it, I was like, yeah, I got to tone that down.
So you do research with friends?
That is one of the strategies you can. But I'm thinking, what turn is it? I can't see the. You're still.
It's November the 8th right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth researching now. I don't believe it'll be there by the time France surrenders. You'll usually fall sometime between June and July in 1940.
This guy, he's selling me down the river already. France has already fallen in his mind.
That's a foregone conclusion.
Where is your courage? You cannot speak this way. No, you're right. I mean, I will try though.
I've tried so many times. I was trying on purpose to just survive, building the anti-tank and anti-air. And best I could do is just try to do more damage to the Germans. Now, granted, I do play with the recommended settings that I put on the thing, where are slightly higher than what you have. So the AI gets a lot of the only AI cheating that it does is when you do it through the veteran or expert is it does get the free research at max difficulty, and then if it's one notch below, it'll just get the MPPs per turn once at war. Except for the Russians, they do get a small little bonus of 25 MPP per turn when at peace, and then the full 50 at war.
You bother with naval research at all with Russia? I never do.
No, I never. I just don't have enough MPP. I never bother with naval.
I mean, to be honest, normally I don't bother with air either.
Yeah, I guess air is usually the last thing on my list. I do everything else, and I always make sure that tanks, like I said, infantry, anti-tank, advanced tanks, and anti-air are the primary focuses. Because they're level 5s and you cannot stack research anymore, you have to always keep it going. Because if not, you will be out researched by the Axis. Because the Germans are doing the same thing. They're going to be clicking on all those, and the AI has been taught to do the same thing, clicking on all those always.
Okay. Any questions from the chat about this mod? It's I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. It's certainly a different pace. I'm still using my base game strategies here, just setting up. Do you bother repairing those pillboxes, or you just leave them strength 8?
I repair them towards the end. Just so that as the Germans are advancing, I can try to hit things that are just kind of brushing up against the wall. The German AI won't really launch any attacks against the Maginot Line. But you can find where he's got weak units that are just sitting there, and you'll be able to just kind of, I would kind of pop shots from Louis. You remember the movie term?
It looks like there's a couple of battleships here, or battle cruisers potentially. Maybe the Germans are reacting to horrendous losses. Do they ever rebuild their navy?
They have us towards it. If the war is going well, they do have a chance of building some light cruisers, destroyers. They will always try to build subs, but destroyers and light cruisers. It's just the German AI is not going to try to rebuild its capital ships because they cost so much. Yeah, I don't think those were the German units there. I think it was seeing. I've seen that sometimes.
They weren't my units for sure.
I think you were seeing from the Germans or the Axis perspective their intelligence stuff on where your units were. I'm not sure why the game engine sometimes does that. I've seen that a few times. It's not consistent, but I've seen it happen a few times.
All right, I don't know where that sub has gone. Did it have enough speed to get away? Yeah, it probably did. I always make the mistake of extra clicks. It doesn't matter right now, but you know.
And don't forget to build your anti-air as the UK. One of the things that people have not noticed yet, but they will when they play it, is anti-aircraft. You cannot build it anymore in cities in their own resources. You can only build the actual anti-aircraft unit. And there's I struggled with this one, and the main reason why I removed it is the AI effectively cannot use it. It doesn't know how to build AA in resources. So what's ended up happening is the AI was just building it on literally all their resources, and he would never have enough MPP to really do anything else effectively. So to even the playing field with a human player, I removed that ability, and it's one of the reasons why I enhanced regular anti-aircraft units, because the AI actually uses the anti-aircraft units quite effectively. He will move them around to try to figure out what areas you are most likely to bomb, and then shift in there.
The AI is a guy, is he? Let's give him a name. Let's call him Dave.
Dave.
Dave the AI will not. He couldn't understand where to build resource-based anti-air, so you had to strip that out, basically to enhance the. Do you know what? I really agree with that. I've actually made my own mods for different games, and I've actually removed things at times because the AI cannot use it, and therefore it's just pure advantage for the player. And that's, that can be really problematic at times. I mean, it's fine to have that, but Dave the AI is not doing anything right now. It's my turn. With a question, what are you doing, Dave? The pipes are calling.
Yeah, you'll hear me say the AI a lot because I do revolve around heavily on the AI. Yeah. Most people play the game single player.
It's so impersonal. So we had to give the AI a name, so we can really bring it into the conversation.
And if anybody, people don't know the pun, I think one of the reasons, there's two reasons why you probably use Dave. One is from the movie 2001, I believe, and the second one is my name is Dave.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was just gonna play this out. I wasn't gonna say anything, man. But just okay, fair enough.
What about the 2001 or my name?
Yeah, both. Let's
It looks like your Z key is stuck.
Oh no, don't worry about it. That's my push to talk key.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I actually built a HQ for France. I don't know if it's going to make it in time. Hopefully.
Oh, and HQs can defend themselves. That was one of the things in the base game. One of the common strategies is to try to get to the HQ, kill it, and then the enemy's units would be out of supply.
Oh, that
Basically,
wasn't my strategy.
uh,
my strategy was way worse. But you continue, and then I'll tell you about my filth.
So now they have all the same abilities as an infantry corps. So they can't attack, but they can perfectly defend themselves perfectly well. So you can even move HQs right onto the front line. They're not as expensive as they used to. They have a baseline expense, but the leader that you pick will actually adjust the cost of the HQ, which was a nice little feature that the developers had in there that I found by accident, but they were already using it. It was in the base game. I thought was neat. So, for example, if you try to choose Manstein, that HQ will cost you a little bit more than if you chose List.
Okay, so you're ready for my filth. What I would do is I would pin an AI HQ somewhere, and I would beat it within an inch of its life, and then I would allow them to repair it, and then I would put it over and over and over, and smack it like an MPP pinata.
Is that out of your frustration at playing a +2 experience and not
Yeah,
able
exactly.
ever be able to build
couldn't.
planes?
Do you know what the funny part is that they're actually quite capable of defending themselves at that difficulty. Frustratingly so. But once you sort of got some artillery near it, like basically the only way to push on expert is with artillery. That's it. You can't push any other way. You need artillery, or the America can do it with strategic bombers, but everyone else it's artillery. So you would bombard the HQ with artillery to stop it from killing you, because +2 is a hell of a drug, and then I'd be able to do like 4 damage per hit to it, so I'd knock it down to 2 health and leave it in the city, and then it would repair itself, and I'd just repeat the process, because I know that the HQ is painfully expensive. So I was draining the German economy to keep Rommel's underpants clean.
Well, that strategy won't work anymore because HQs are not that expensive anymore. You can usually build them for about 100 MPP or less.
Battle cruiser operational. Sorry, wrong game.
It sounds like StarCraft or something.
Yes, it was very good. I'm always dropping stupid stuff in my streams.
I just remember that because I just recently played StarCraft 2. I bought the game probably like 7 years ago and never played it, and for some silly reason I decided I wanted to play it yesterday, like 3 days ago, I think, for the first time. I played StarCraft 1 an amazing amount of time, but not 2.
Yeah, I loved the first game. Classic. Ancient by today's standards, but I still watch people play it because it's amazing. Watching the Koreans destroy their hands.
I used to play it a lot. I stopped playing it, especially against other players, when you're in there, and I had a guy send me messages saying, "Hey, the other guy's about to attack you. I can see you need to do better on your building." He actually had some sort of hack where you could see everything. So I was kind of like, I don't want to play MP if they're gonna see everything that I'm doing.
I can't handle the toxicity of the multiplayer community these days. This is me now. Me and my strategic command. Just me and the AI. Dave will never cast aspersions about my mum. Dave just coldly tries to kill my units. He doesn't try to kill my spirit.
Dave takes nothing personal and does nothing to make it personal.
Yeah, exactly. So We could have been friends in a different timeline, but okay. I've nearly finished the British research tree. You ever bother with subs for the British? I feel like they have such an immense navy that you really no
No,
real reason to play with subs for the UK, even
you
though
get
subs are really good.
you get 2 subs to the UK and 1 if it survives the attack in the Netherlands. And I always send them to the Mediterranean to harass the Italian convoys to North Africa and to try to do little shots here and there at the ships. But again, when you start getting to the later half of the war, the basically the maritime bombers from the Germans and the Italians usually end up blowing my subs away. So you have to kind of stay close to Malta with your fleet and your ships so that the AA gun will protect you from the bombers from the Allies, from the Axis.
What about the close air support from the carriers?
They will work, but remember the light carriers only will do 1 mission. That is the big difference between the regular carriers and light carriers. The light carriers only get 1 mission, while the heavy carriers get 2. So one of the benefits with the new AA is Malta can now extend 2 hexes out. So everything within 2 hexes of Malta will be protected by the AA guns. And just so you know, I already know, so you cannot overstrength units in this mod. So you cannot make units from 10 to 11 because they've reached elite status. You're capped at 10. Yes.
But how do I prevent the brutal EXP loss that comes with losing even a single point of health?
It's what happens.
You just don't.
Yep. So the only unit in the entire game that has more than 10 is that anti-aircraft gun in Malta. It's the only one.
It's the only one so it's really ultra special.
Yes. Make sure you don't lose Malta, or try to. It can be taken from the Axis. I've done it. You have to really focus on it.
Oh, there's another strength gun in Gibraltar.
That's actually a coastal fort, not an AA gun.
Well, I know that. That's what I said.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I forgot about that one. But yes, he's the other. Outside
You're lying to me live on stream.
My nose just grew 7 inches.
Okay.
Oh, if you notice Gibraltar, it's only 1 port now, and you can invade it from the Med.
I think you'll have to be very, very bold as the Italians to conceive of that as a thing that you could do.
It is a good strategy, because if you can get Gibraltar, Spain will join the war on the Axis side.
I find on expert they join the war on the Axis side anyway. The German AI on expert has a lot of spare MPP and uses it to pump diplomacy with Spain. It happens every time. So AA has got a 2-tile umbrella of protection now.
Correct. And the diplomacy has been rewritten, so the AI will go for certain countries, and it's different every single game. So the Germans will spend 1 game, it'll go after Spain, another game it'll go after Turkey, another one will go after Sweden. And then the British will try to counter it. Now, there is caps. If you look into diplomacy, I do have now max caps of 2. You can't put more than 2 points in a country anymore. So diplomacy has been reworked heavily. And there's also been a lot of removing of countries in the diplomacy screen. So, for example, you can't, as the Axis, manipulate U.S. mobilization. All the major powers have been removed with the exception of Vichy on the diplomacy. and a lot of the miners are not available there either because they have parent countries. So, for example, you have Belgian Congo. Well, Belgian Congo, even though it's a separate entity from Belgium, it's part of Belgium, so you cannot manipulate with diplomacy Belgian Congo. And if you declared war on either Belgian Congo or Belgium, they will both join the war.
It's funny because when I was playing on expert mode, Spain joined the war, and I didn't do the Winter War or take the northern at this point in the war, like semi-autonomous regions, Estonia, and they're countries now, but at the time they were like sort of semi-independent or whatever. I'm not like au fait on the history, but if you don't absorb them and you just leave them, then the German AI invades all of them, which then pushes up the percentage towards allies of all the neutral nations. Anyway, Germany got extremely aggressive and declared war on this whole set of states.
Baltic states.
The Baltic states, and then they declared on I can't remember now, but they declared on Portugal as well. And it triggered an event where Switzerland sent them a strongly worded letter, and I thought, that's the most aggressively British thing I've ever seen in my life. Send them a strongly worded letter. Switzerland appalled by Axis aggression, I think, was the event.
Yes. Oh, and I'm sure Hitler turned around and said, "Where's the shredder?"
Yeah. That was the sound of the letter getting shredded. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
Not the sound of an A10. If you had an A10 in this game, that would be pretty sweet. Could you imagine? Like, how are their aircraft so advanced? I can't even begin to understand. Okay, I think we're done with research here. I'm not gonna buy advanced subs. Forget it.
Yeah, for the U.S., I would not buy a single thing. Everything in research. There's been discussions on the forums, and people were like, "Well, the U.S. can't research everything. They're kind of behind because of how little MP they get in the beginning and stuff." There's historically, the U.S. had a very advanced army all the way around. However, they weren't the most advanced in everything. Their tanks were actually a subpar compared to the Axis, but that was actually not because of them not being able to build the tanks. Is because they needed the logistics to get the tanks all the way from the U.S. to Europe. Now, there's no way to simulate that in the game. To say, we're building Sherman tanks because their chassis are small enough that they can fit on a train rail car, get them to the coast, and then small enough to fit into a ship, and then transporting across the ocean. Whereas the Germans and the Russians, they just build it out of the factory, roll it out, and it's already going into combat. So there was a lot more logistical. So to simulate that in some ways was to have the U.S. not be able to research everything in the beginning. They will, as you get closer and their mobilization goes up and up and up, they will increase so that they can research everything. But in the early years, they're not able to. So you got to really pinpoint what areas you want to be advanced in for the U.S. to try to compete for whatever strategy is your goal there. I've played again as the Allies several games now. It does work. You just gotta pinpoint what you want.
Cool. Well, I'm just doing some repairs here. We're still December 1939. When's the invasion?
The Germans will launch the Low Countries invasion sometime around April.
Yeah, so we're not going to make it to there. We're actually truly out of time already. So thanks for coming to talk about your mod. I will get this uploaded on the official Slytherin YouTube channel and pop all the links and everything in there so that people can get this mod and play this mod. Thanks for coming on to talk about it. I just wanted to give people a basis of how to get stuck into this. I'm sure those that have played Strategic Command, the normal base game, will get right at home here with your changes. And it's very interesting. I do like many of the alterations you've made to, at the very least, to reduce the cheese. Because I was already thinking about a number of fine cheeses from my collection, and you seem to have mostly blocked all of them. So that's good work on that. Anything final you want to add?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. Like I said, I'm very active. I check the forums. There's the Discord channel. I actually do stream sometimes when I'm playing the mod. I just randomly, if you're in the Discord channel, I just randomly start streaming. Just join the channel if you want to see me play.
Yeah, we'll grab that Discord link as well. So I'll try and get everything in the description of the eventual YouTube video. Okay, all right. Thanks everybody. That is another episode of What Is Your Mod? There'll be another one 2 weeks from now. I believe we will be looking at Master of Magic, but that's not 100% confirmed yet. So, and do check out the first episode of What Is Your Mod? The sound was a little bit quiet on that one, so be sure to turn it up past the intro. But we're just settling into our stride with this series. Hopefully, shine a light on all these great mods, and we will see you guys next time.